Good morning. Well, in our life, we come across people all the time, and some of them are great, while others are absolute creeps who, after you have met them, leave a toxic effect on you. And they can be in variety of ways. They can be a boss who give you a dirtiest work and then no credit. A colleague who hogs the flow in a meeting. A customer who feels entitled all the time. A guest who comes to your home, eats your salad and then complains that he didn't like the dressing. These toxic, selfish, inconsiderate, insensitive people are a pain in the neck. But how to deal with them? You cannot simply say, okay, I will have nothing to do with it, because there will be majority of the people whom you come across and who are nothing but creeps, selfish creeps. So, and many times you are left with no option but to put up with them. You cannot afford to be brusque the way I am. And I am brusque, believe me. So, today we deal with diverse methods to deal with such people. First is try to find the bright spots. Some people are selfish in all their relationships. Whether it's a family relationship, whether it's friends, whether it's colleagues, whatever. But such people are sociopaths. They are people who are to be avoided. But most takers, most creeps are really not bad people. They have become cynical because they have been burned very often. Or their whole upbringing is that the word is a dog eat dog place. So you had better be a bigger dog than to be a sensible dog. So try to find some bright spot in them, and you will notice that there are some times when they are less selfish. They will not be absolutely selfless, but they will be less selfish. And when you find that bright spot, try to connect with them at that time. That will ease certain tension in your dealing. Another important way is to give them reputational feedback. Now, I'll tell you how we do it. I once had a colleague who had a habit of misquoting, and who also had a habit of coming back to you and telling you the tales which had no validity. So I called him one day and I said, look here, I appreciate all people, but I do not work well with the people who operate the way you do. I've heard about you, and you shall definitely not like me to take action. He was a junior colleague of mine. He caught on. And since that day, he did not try to be the sort of the person that he was. And that was very helpful. There are very few people in the world who want to see the mirror. And when they see a mirror, they see themselves staring back at them. They become jittery. They become nervous. And that is the time to take them on. Give them a reputational feedback. Tell them that their reputation is, and that you are not going to be taken in by that reputation. And you don't want to reinforce that reputation. Now, what happens is that most of us say, no, we should not hurt, it will look bad. No, it doesn't look bad. It might look bad to some people who are moral cowards. But if you have the moral courage, it will not look bad. It will reinforce your moral fiber and your sense of integrity. Calling a spade is not bad. Calling a spade a crooked agricultural implement is bad. Third is, they try to understand what their goals are. They are bad not because they are inherently bad, but because they have goals which do not synchronize with your goals. And that is important. Once you know their interest, once you know what ticks them, then their behavior is predictable. And if you can help them realize that how being selfish in fact jeopardizes their goals, that they cannot reach it, you will see a significant shift in their behavior. So first you have got to find a bright spot, which may not be there, forget them. Second is, give them their reputational feedback. Let them know what people think about them. Let them know what sort of reputation that they have. Not only among the strangers, but among the friends and acquaintances. And the so-called friends are just tolerating them. Psychologically, you have got to understand what their goals are. Because once you know what their goals are, you can easily see how then they can be tackled. Once I had a colleague, and I took that colleague aside and told him that people don't trust him and they don't want to work with him. Then I studied his background and I realized that he came from a company which had a cutthroat culture, and what he had learned was to be aggressive in prioritizing his own work, over the needs of others. So I explained to him, look here, we are not generous, and as a good manager, I'm a good butcher as well. He caught on. And what his aims were, he was able to fulfill them in the other, but less obnoxious manner. When a person is obnoxious, you have got to deal with him that way. You cannot treat poison or cancer with homeopathy. You have got to, say placebos and the sugar-coated pills are no use. You have got to be firm, but only be firm when you realize what they really are. And the most important thing is, there is a movement for truth. Until and unless you know the truth of them, you know the reality of mind's work and their reaction, you cannot do anything. The truth is not something which will come to you in one day. But if you have been trying to understand their goals, if you have been trying to find out what ticks them and what their bright spots are, you would find that they are not really bad, some of them. Let me come to that. You might be thinking that what I'm saying is just textbook talk. No, it's not. It's based on my experience. It's based on my interaction with different people. The sort of the life I have lived, spanning multidisciplinary, multicultural, and multifunctional ways. I have interacted with the people at different levels, of different backgrounds, of different attitudes. And I find that the majority of the people are selfish takers. And they especially are on a lookout for selfless givers. The people who consider that they're the saints, and they are really saints. They are cheated, and yet they don't learn, they continue to be cheated. For the simple reason they think that everybody is not too bad. I agree, everybody is not too bad. But the majority of the people, at at least a sizable majority of the people are, as I said, creeps who want to take advantage of you. They can either appeal to your good sense, appeal to your sense of generosity, appeal to your attitude of being more human, try to establish empathy with you. Now, if you remember in one of my talks, I had told you that you have got to have empathy, but do not have sympathy. Empathy is positive, sympathy is bad. When you have sympathy, the other takes advantage of you. And that is where the Stockholm Syndrome sets in. You try, the selfless giver develops an uncanny sympathy with selfish taker. And the result is he or she is exploited shamelessly. And that is where the situation becomes better and worse. And then, suppose everything fails. Then what do? Then the best thing is, it takes a thief to catch a thief. Even if you are not the taker, to that person try to show him, or rather show him that you are a taker. Place him temporarily in a position of being a giver. And you would see, he would simply flee and leave your space. Once he realizes that you are a taker and not a giver, he'll have nothing to do with you. He has been trying to creep in, prey on your emotions and sentiments and thoughts and feelings. And when he realizes that you belong to the same category, though fake one, not a real one, he would say, okay, this is a place where I cannot suck blood. I cannot be a blood sucker. So, the best thing is, I say goodbye. And that is your salvation. So the process is identification, feedback, find the motives, find the reasons, try to take a human approach, try to be reformatory, and then pose up. And once you pose up, you would find that you are saved. This is no rocket science. It's a human psychology. Understand the human psychology. Understand the working of the mind. Understand how the brain functions. Understand how the emotions are a route to damnation at times. And you will be saving yourself, your dear and dear ones. Many times in your family you would have noticed that when you are being taken up as a sucker, when you are being exploited, your family members feel equally bad. And when they feel bad, there's a disconnect between you and your group, the family group, your real friends, that group. And that disconnect is harmful. Now, you have got to take a decision that whether you want to connect with the people who are givers and takers. Everybody in the human world is a giver. And everybody in the human world is taker. But these creeps I'm talking about, they don't come in everybody. They are only takers. And these takers, as I call them, selfish creeps, are toxic in human relationship, in social relationship, in emotional relationship. And these takers, until and unless they are set on a proper path, are to be shunned, to be avoided. Choice is yours. You can continue to be preyed upon by these evil birds of prey, or you can protect yourself by being a person who sees through what it is. But avoid these creeps if you really want to lead a healthy life. Toxicity is never good, and the people who have a toxic effect have either to be reformed or to be avoided. Think about it. Good day.